Day, ladies and gentlemen. I am Robert Nicholas, and what I will be recommending today is World War channels and the history channels, and also some side note interesting channels or channel that you could visit, and if you want to learn about history. And the first one here, as you can see on the list, is Simple History. Simple History is what its name implies: learn history in no time. What slogan implies. It has a lot of cool videos that you could view from all sorts of past timelines, whether that's World War, the Middle Ages, the Crusades, and so on and so forth. This has it all. It even has the video about why the assassins of the Hashashins back in the time, jumped and took a leap of faith. It has videos about the importance of the Nile River in ancient Egypt, and I'm a big Egyptologist, so I love that. It talks about the Corinthian helmets, what style, and when they were made, when they were gone, when they were there. It talks about president that kept on reading his speech after being shot. We all know who that was, and if you don't, first name is Theodore. I'll let you guess the rest, and if you're not, Google it. The Iranian embassy siege, 1980s. It talks about everything, these random things. It's filled with things you can just visit and read and study at, and this is a fantastic history channel. It asks the questions that you want to ask, the questions you have. It finds all new meaning and ways of how to basically teach you history, and I think this should be in the board and schools of education of how great this channel is. And Simple History has nice cartoony feel show to it. For instance, I'll load Tunnel Rat. Okay, Tunnel Rat, and I'll give you just the idea how the videos look. Right,
the Vietnam War. And the communist forces began digging tunnel networks in South Vietnam in the late 1940s during the First Indochina War against French colonial rule. By the Vietnam War in the
They always show you graphical images, as you can see here, on what they're doing.
1960s, the tunnels had evolved.
And what it was like back then.
Evolved into a complex system with hospitals, storage, kitchens, and headquarters. The NVA and Viet Cong went underground into the Cu Chi tunnels when the U.S. forces bombed the area. As well as providing shelter, these tunnels helped the NVA and Viet Cong launch sneak attacks and ambushes, as well as lay booby traps close to enemy positions. To clear out these dangerous tunnels, brave infantrymen from Australia, New Zealand...
It introduces you to a story of why everything they're talking about it. They're guiding you perfectly through, explaining you what these people are doing on this side, and then why these people have to come in to do it from their side. What's the importance of the tunnel rats? It touches.
South Vietnam and the United States volunteered for this unenviable job. They would gain the nickname Tunnel Rats.
I will let you do the rest of studying on yourself, and to figure out why Simple History is a great educational tool and why it should be implemented in schools or any institutions where they should teach. But guess what? This will never happen because just society is that way. The second one is Extra Credits. Extra Credits talks about everything. Mythologies, they even add videos if they've missed something by accident, and their slogan is because learning matters. And I do agree, learning matters. When I didn't learn on the history on both sides and I was fed false information, it brainwashed me to a point where I kind of believed things more than I did others. And realizing that brainwashing is it's not a good thing. Like, imagine one day they brainwashed children believing what the Nazis did, where that all of them were evil, and then none of them were good. They were evil, but they were also good among them, and I like to learn both sides of the tale. I don't like to call every German a Nazi because of their past. I just want to look into their past and see what background they come from, but I will not judge the people of today compared to the past. And if you want to ever stand up to people and tell them what your opinions are and what you know about history, these channels do a great deal in doing this. The extra credits channel tackled. I don't remember if they tackled a lot of World War, and I usually don't turn to extra credits for World War purposes. What I do come to them for are, for example, the End of the Samurai. I really liked this. This was an interesting tale for me of how the end of the samurai age came about before the new era. And this one I watched too, about the Moon Princess Kaguya. So that was a very interesting one. And I pick what I really like. Cleopatra I did not watch. However, this one I watched, Mythology of the Witcher, and they talk about the video game. They're even going to talk about the Lord of the Rings soon, probably. So they talk about all sorts of mythologies, not just historical ones, but also from fictional ones. And, you know, they tell, like, you can see for yourself, like, yeah, everything's here. Now I'm going to play an example of how one of the videos is. And for example, the End of the Samurai, let's just say part 1.
But the intention of this fleet and its leader, Commodore Matthew Perry, is not so benign. Bay. Edo Bay, July 8th, 1853.
Good introduction.
4 Western ships sail into the bay, headed for the capital of the Tokugawa shogunate. Ignoring warnings that this port is close to foreign ships, they anchor, turned their heavy guns toward a coastal trading town, and open fire. But they're blanks, intended, they claim, to celebrate the 4th of July. But the intention of this fleet and its leader, Commodore Matthew Perry, is not so benign. He has a letter from U.S. President Millard Fillmore requesting that Japan open its ports to trade. But Perry also sends his own letter along with the gift of a white flag. He says that if the shogunate refuses the request, it will lead to war. A war that Japan will certainly lose, and in such case, they should use the white flag to indicate surrender. The shogunate will accept Perry's terms, and in doing so, bring the era of the samurai to a bloody end.
And that's, I won't go rest on the rest of the details about this channel, because the channel, just like its own video, said the rest for itself. It told you, it introduced you well nicely in the story, explained immediately how both sides work, very carefully, very delicately. They also had that humor in their voice to tell you, yeah, we know what that means. And that's why extra credits, I call it extra history, is on its own, on extra credits to history. It's a very good channel. It educates you a lot about everything you need to know. Mythological stories, fairy tale stories, fictional stories, and it explores their mythology as well. Extra credits is an extra credit to every single lover of history and maker of history, to be honest, and I highly recommend their channel. The third channel on my list I recommend, it should be on the first list, but I don't really have 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. I have certain picks, and they're all equally my favorite. I have no favorite. I have no number 1. I have no number 2. I have no number 3. I don't care for that. The World War II channel explores, my apologies, explores everything. And most people who are fans of history already know this channel for how many views it gains daily.
To do so. But this...
It starts out with Indy Nidell, usually. Ooh.
Hello? Oh, yeah. What? Slow down. You missed. With all of them? Wait, you didn't hit anything? Oh, come on, you could... What? It's not your fault. It's the torpedo's fault. Yeah, right. Yeah. January 2nd, 1942. Japan invaded China in 1937, thinking they'd win in a few months. That was not the case. Germany invaded Poland in 1939, and by now, Germany and Japan and the other Axis powers have invaded over 200 nations, dominions, and colonies on 3 continents. But as 1942 dawns, those allied against the Axis powers declare their solidarity and form the United Nations.
Sorry. How rude of me. I failed.
I'm Indy Nidell. This is World War II. Last week...
That's what I wanted to do. This is Indy Nidell. Usually he's on this channel, but it's not just him. He's, however, the main spokesperson for most of the channel. But his people that work with him, the entire World War II real-time team, are doing a fantastic job of telling World War II from beginning to end. They did an entire separate channel called World War I, I believe, where they posted everything from beginning to end about World War I and talked about it. In World War II, however, the situation and everything they talk about for me it's darker. That's because World War II wasn't just no simple war. They have 10 parts of the Pearl Harbor, which I watched entirely. I watched every single one of their videos because their videos are accurate. They don't just tell you one side of the equation. They don't say America is superior. They don't say the British are superior. They don't say that Nazi Germany is all evil. You know, they explain why these things happen, that it was the leaders, that it was the high command that wasn't all right in their head, while the people were suffering for it. And I feel they have a perfect means, the perfect ways of explaining how it all happened, how it all came together. And that's what you need to learn in history. You need to learn both sides of the equation, not just one. You can't sympathize with one and then hate the other, but you don't know anything about the other one. And the same thing is with, there are many historical channels that promote themselves, that promote their own armies. America usually promotes itself too much in Hollywood and in theater, for example, while we deep down know that, well, the American flag is not as great as it used to be back in the day. I mean, it is today. Don't get me wrong. It's very important and it means a lot. But people have changed compared to then to now. We all talk about the mess, the rebellions that go on in America. What happens when people protest? The things they protest for sometimes are stupid. How laws and the people themselves have changed. But guess what, people have changed everywhere across the world, not just America. And unfortunately, no part of the world has changed for the better, except for one thing: we're not fighting yet. And the next war, if it ever comes, will be out of nukes, because, you know, why do we need to, you know, like, why? What I wanted to showcase about this channel is let me just find him. Yeah, I could always find him. Oh yes, I'll just type it right here. I remember it, but I guess I'm blind. This channel has, what I like the most is
question. First half.
The second part of the World War II channel is narrated by this lovely individual, and I will play it out for you so you could see what I also love about the World War II channel.
Of December 1941. According to some interpretations of chaos theory, one flap of a seagull's wing is enough to alter the course of global weather forever. In December 1941, it is the roar of many wings of Japanese bombers and fighter planes over Hawaii and Southeast Asia that alters the course of the war forever, and the repercussions are felt immediately across the globe. This is War Against Humanity, a sub-series of World War II in real time. I'm Spartacus Olson. In the second half...
The man said it himself, who he is, and I've left it to that. Now, why I love the War Against Humanity? Because it talks about things what we've done to each other. It explains the horrible things we've all done. It explains the Wehrmacht is not clean incident that you would, if you are really passionate about history, you will know immediately what he's talking about. But I won't spoil it here. For new people, I want people to, you know, take a look at their channel, judge for themselves, and see what they think is good for them and what they like hearing, what they like watching. Christmas with Adolf Hitler. I don't want to go into it. They talk about Hitler's hangman, everything, but Spartacus's War Against Humanity. This is what you should watch. It talks about everything: the Jews executing people, the Japanese executing people. It talks about what the British soldiers even did to their own people, and so on and so forth. And if it doesn't mention a lot of the British people yet, it surely will. And if it doesn't, this channel will disappoint me. I want them to mention, and I'll be watching this channel for that very reason. And if it never comes to pass, I'll unsubscribe from the channel. I want them to talk about the deal between the British, the Americans, not the Japanese, they lost the war, sorry. The British and the Americans and the Soviet Union as they shipped Germans and Croatian POWs to Russia, to the Gulag camps for extermination. I want them to include that to their channel. I want them to explain the secret deal between President D. Roosevelt and Winston Churchill. And if they don't include that, I'll be very angry, because then it means you're picking one side again. I love both sides of the equation, and they're talking about both sides so far. This is why this channel impresses me. However, I noticed that most channels, they panic. They don't know what they're gonna pick, what they're gonna do, and I don't like that. You know, I don't like that they pick anything, like anything interesting. So this is my third channel I introduced you to, and I hope you enjoy it. My fourth channel I highly recommend for you for learning history is Felz. Now Felz's channel, Felz, I don't know how you really pronounce that, but are not subscribed. How the fuck is that possible? What? Really? What? That was weird. I swear to God, he pops up in my probably pops up in my recommendations. But I've been watching Felz for a long time. The Vietnam War, the Cold War Part 7, I haven't watched yet, unfortunately. But everything else on this channel I've watched. I even watched his first video of Ultimate Joffrey Slap compilation and Vegeta versus Goku. And honestly, because of the Ultimate Joffrey Slap compilation is when I first happened about his video, because my brother kept saying that Game of Thrones is great, and so I watched clips about it, and I ran into his channel by accident, and I thought it was a silly channel with just some random clips, but no, and in the end I found some very interesting things that I love about this channel, and I want to advertise, so I hope he gets views. He doesn't have a lot of subscribers, but also he has fair enough amount of views, but he deserves more, certainly more than my fucking Moonfall channel. I mean, I put images of a moon falling to the earth, and that's all I do, you know, and what else I do is just random videos. This person right here, he deserves all the love, all the attention. He deserves subscribers galore, if you ask me. His videos are excellent, and I'll give it an exact timeline, exact reason why I think so. Take the World War I timeline, for instance.
Dimanche, quand le printemps, si ma poule met ta robe blanche et ne perd ton pas de temps. Il fait un soleil superbe, on va faire tous les deux un petit déjeuner sur l'herbe comme deux amoureux. On va s'emporter de quoi boulotter, le train va partir, tu vas nous faire rater. Anna, qu'est-ce que t'attends?
Shoots Archduke Franz Ferdinand. I didn't even have to look, and I already knew. What I like about this channel, it mentions everything in letters below. He doesn't even speak to you. He lets the music play, he lets the clips play, and he lets the clips guide you into the story. However, what he also does, very beautifully, better than any historical channel I've ever seen, is the maps. I think I like there. What this? I don't know what happened to me there, but okay, that's my fault. He explains everything, how it all happened, but through timeline. He doesn't go to the details of how everything happened, but he shows you a visual interpretation of the whole war very quickly. So Indy will be explaining his things on his channel. Everything, every secret. This channel will only mention the important wars, things that shaped history themselves. You will hear the speeches of the Kaiser, like in this video, and you also hear chilling things like this that represent the scene. And he will give you an idea of how they lost this war, and where the reinforcements came from, what happened, and now that was Germany assaulting neutral, Austro-Hungary invading Serbia only to fail and lose the war. It shows you where it's going to happen. It's perfect. It's very well thought out. The scenes used to represent how the battles happened. It shows everyone how they mounted, how they assaulted the tanks, what battles they lost, and where they went. He does it. He does an excellent showcase of it. And he doesn't just show it. He shows the Viking in the recommendation list. And it's awesome. And this is a channel that I was actually going to find on my YouTube list right now when we talk about it next. So I'm just going to open a video to it immediately. But as I continue, the second thing he has is Ancient Rome timeline, South America timeline, and you can learn basically history through him really quick. He has 3 World War II timelines, but I advise this.
The stock market buckled and crashed, and the nation's economy plummeted into the depression.
Or shut up.
By 1932, nearly 1 man out of 4 was unemployed. Working men spent their days on park benches.
Basically a prologue to everything.
Die Partei
Prologue.
wird für alle Zukunft die politische Führungslese des deutschen Volkes sein. Sie wird in ihrer Lehre unveränderlich, in ihrer Organisation stahlhart, in ihrer Taktik biegsam und anpassungsfähig, in ihrem Gesamtbild aber wie ein Ort sein.
That's my brother.
España cumple
I'll keep that in the
en los momentos actuales su designio providencial. Como en otras épocas, derrama ahora su sangre en defensa de la civilización.
The last channel I heavily recommend for history, honestly. This is my top 5, I guess, favorite channels, and so he's in my top 5 for sure. Kings and Generals. This channel, the most passionate thing about it, and I'm really hoping for, like, I really am interested in all sorts of history, but I'm mainly interested in Roman history and ancient Egyptian history. And so whenever I see them posting something about, for example, Caesar's civil war,
had fought with him since his Gallic campaign.
I get all excited. I mean,
the old friends against each other yet again, with the whole Roman world in balance. Shout out to Magellan TV for sponsoring this video, and Magellan is the card that provides Kings.
That's annoying.
Caesar's priority was to get his army back into fighting condition, so he first marched to Apollonia, where he left his wounded, and sent 7 cohorts to garrison various towns and cities under his control.
It shows you a full
Longinus's legion would be safe in southern Greece, But Domitius and his 2 veteran legions of Gallic campaigns, who had been stalling and pinning Scipio Metellus during Dyrrhachium, were now exposed. All of Caesar's plans now revolved around merging his depleted army with Domitius. If Pompey marched on Italy, Caesar would meet up with Domitius and march through Illyria to attack Pompey from the rear. If Pompey marched on Caesar, Caesar would march to Domitius and fight a battle with the merged army. If Pompey besieged Caesar's allied towns in Greece, Caesar would march to Domitius and attack Scipio, forcing Pompey to react or lose an ally. Before any of these plans could be put into effect though, Caesar had to get to Domitius. He began his march at full pace from Apollonia. Pompey, however, had also come to a similar conclusion. If Scipio was caught unsupported, his legions would surely be lost. Both Caesar and Pompey were once again in a race with each other, each hoping to reach their ally before the other. Leaving Cato in control of Dyrrhachium, Pompey began his march to Scipio. As he did, he took measures to slow Caesar, spreading the word of his defeat at Dyrrhachium, and as a result, Caesar found little support on his march, and his scouts and messengers found it impossible to reach Domitius. When both armies were just 4 hours from the positions of Domitius and Scipio, Caesar had a stroke of luck. Some of the Gauls who had defected to Pompey at Dyrrhachium had yet another change of heart, racing to Domitius and warning him of Pompey's approach and Caesar's location. Armed with this knowledge, Domitius was able to safely reposition and merge with Caesar. Caesar's whole army in the region, aside from the 27th, was now united.
I don't wish to go further, but that's basically what you need to know. Again, another perfect channel that talks about both sides. It does not shy away of explaining. It explains logistics, reasons. It explains why not Ptolemy. Why am I mentioning Egyptian? Pompey. It explains. I'm sorry, Pompey. I'm sorry, Pompey Magnus. I'm sorry. That was what did I get Ptolemy out of that? Blech. Anyway, sorry. It mentions what Pompey went through. It mentions what Caesar went through. It mentions everything you need to know: their allies, their reasons, their posts, how the Romans had their how they set up camps, and kings in general. I think is the best way of how. I'll type this in. I'll show you what I mean. Yeah. Where is it? Give me a moment. Here we go. Roman trade with Africa. They tell you about the Roman trade with Africa, how it happened. They explain how Rome changed from Marius to Caesar. I apologize. The Praetorian Guards of Rome. Where is it? The origin of the Etruscans that the Romans conquered and whose homeland they took over. It's from then they got the Greek culture and urbanization eventually over time. Tells you about the Marian reforms that literally destroyed the Roman army, but at the same time made it great. So it's interesting to know about every little detail. My favorite, I think, of these videos that they've ever recorded with the explaining the Romans, and then I mean in very good detail, but I really can't land on to now, no matter how many times I want to find it, I can't. Where is it? Wait, what if I Google military, well, not Google, search on YouTube. This.
Constructed works had a low earth rampart, known as the Agger, about 1.48 meters in height and topped with a timber obstacle. Usually this was the standard issue pilum muralia, a double-pointed stake carried by legionaries as a part of their marching orders in order to function as a makeshift caltrop. These makeshift fortifications would have the effect of blunting the impact of any surprise charge and causing chaos among the enemy. Outside the defences was a single V-shaped ditch, the fossa, which was no more than 1.48 meters in width and 89 centimeters deep. Entrances to the marching camp, which had no gates, came in two types. First were the entrances defended by tituli, short stretches of rampart and ditch set a few meters in front of the main rampart, defending the gap which formed the entrance. Second were those defended by claviculae, or little keys. These curved extensions of the rampart and ditch had the genius effect of forcing an attacker's sword arm to face the rampart, denying them the use and protection of their shield. Within the camp itself, tent lines were deliberately laid out and planned in advance. Each was in its customary and usual space so that every unit knew exactly where to pitch their tents and each man knew his place. This avoided confusion and added to the speed at which the camp could be put up. The Roman tents were standardized and each housed an 8-man contubernium unit. The layout of the camp was also incredibly organized and was based on 2 axes. The Via Praetoria led from the entrance of the same name across to the Porta Decumana. Intersecting this at a right angle was the Via Principalis. Finally, the intersection point was known as the Praetorium, housing the tent of the general himself and the senior officials of the legion. Between the rampart and the tents, there was a wide open area known as the Intervallum. This space had a dual function, both to ensure tents were out of enemy missile range thrown from outside the camp, and to draw up in battle formations with plenty of space. Though the marching camp was often a temporary...
I will not continue anymore with this video, but that's what I wanted to show. It was thanks to Kings and Generals and other channels like this that I've learned the importance of how logistics work. I learned how caravans work. I learned how food is delivered to the troops. I learned that how the Romans made bridges to destroy enemies. I've learned tons and tons of things from the Kings and Generals channel, from the Extra Credits channel, who I will return to once more. So this is Kings and Generals. Right here, please have a good look. Felz channel, Felz right here, he deserves much love in my opinion. Extra Credits. Oh, sorry, I'll go back. Felz doesn't really have anything else in his background, but you know, that's interesting. Extra Credits does, and has a nice background. I admire that. He has a nice background, but I wish it had something to do with timelines. I wish he had like the left side cropped or something like that, with one picture of World War II, World War I, the other one of World War II, the third one of, I don't know, the Britain timeline, and so on and so forth. I don't know how he would do his background, but I think he could do it better for his channel, because he's very talented. He does excellent work. But that's the only thing I recommend you change, Felz. Extra Credits, beautiful background, because learning matters. It surely does. Everything they talk about, as I mentioned before, please enjoy it. Simple History, I do not even need to say anything else about Simple History. They have a lot of educational things. They're just excellent. I can't believe I almost forgot to mention Kings and Generals in there. So this is my top 5 World War history channels that you should pay attention to, that you should watch if you're passionate about history, if you want to learn both sides of history, if you want to learn how they survived. These channels nail it all. They're perfect for educational purposes. They're perfect. I didn't learn as much in school as I learned from these channels, and I'm thankful for these channels. I've wandered into brainwashing things, and the things that I knew that they were just leaning too much to one side or leaning too much on the other side, and they were never honest. They were always promoting their own selfish countries, well, not countries, but their own people selfishly, but they weren't explaining, you know, why other people matter just as equally. These channels do, and I highly recommend them on YouTube. YouTube has become the History Channel, for example, talks all about aliens. I fucking hate that. I want you to, oh my god, bonus, my top 6 videos. Oh, I am sorry. I am so sorry. I forgot to mention this man. He deserves all the love, and I thank God I remember. How could I forget? How could I forget? I apologize. Mark Felton, I apologize if you ever see this video. I apologize. I apologize. You, my friend, I don't love you. If I said that, I'd be too homosexual. It would be too homosexual if I did, but I love you, and it's not no homo. You have an excellent channel, Mark Felton, and the subscriber numbers says enough. You talk about everything. You talk about things that, you know, are forgotten. For instance, I will let this clip play.
When Germany lost World War I in 1918, it also lost its right, according to the Allies, to military forces. It was the feeling that the only way to curb German expansionism in the future was by degrading her armed forces to the point where the nation would
I apologize. The History Channel, what it really was once, a long time ago.
Physically be unable to do anything other than defend itself. Germany would be militarily neutered. But this plan actually caused a different outcome. Its very severity caused the German army in particular to become a lean and potentially very dangerous future opponent. For it may come as a surprise to many, but Germany began planning for the next war shortly after defeat in World War I, and long before Hitler came on the scene.
Yes.
In November
Yes. Stories with Mark Felton Productions, or Mark Felton himself, who is this lovely Joe here. He does an excellent job talking about things that you wouldn't even think would be talked about. Mark Felton takes all sorts of clips, and sometimes I think that Indian Nidell and the other channels come here just to look at his content before they even do their own videos, or he visits their channel just for that extra information they need so they can also share it on their channel through different means. Mark Felton is a treasure, and I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to say that I don't believe I almost forgot to mention Mark Felton. These are my top 6 top 6 history channels that you should watch, and I'm including Mark Felton in here. It would be a sin if I didn't include Mark Felton here. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to put some extra recommendations, but not related to history, but an advertisement. This is an advertisement. I am going to advertise 740 Gear, all about aviation. Now, why 740 Gear? Well, it's a pilot who reacts to other videos in Hollywood about piloting, and so he talks about Hollywood versus reality of planes. And if you ever feared climbing on a, or I mean, not climbing, yeah, well, climbing and also flying on a plane, go here. The reason for that is, Maddie gasped. The reason for that is this. He even comments on DreamWorks. I'll give you an example.
Engine 2 is no longer on fire.
Madagascar 2.
We've lost Engine 1. And Engine 2 is no longer on fire.
Hollywood versus reality. Coming up. Hey 74 crew, welcome back. If you don't know me, my name's Kelsey. I'm a 747 pilot. My channel 74 Gear is all about aviation. Today I'm here in sunny Los Angeles, California. The weather is great. I think it's in the mid-70s. It's in the middle of December. Really, what more can you ask for? And this is a view from my hotel room. Today I'm doing the Hollywood versus reality on Madagascar 2. It's very similar to the movie Sully, as it's also based off of a true story. It's about a lion, a hippo, a zebra, and a giraffe escaping Africa, being flown by penguins.
I never realized that until now.
Let's get into it.
Before I continue, Kelsey is very good at his job, very good. One of the best pilots I could have ever had the privilege to watch on YouTube, and he he explains everything, how the plane works. He knows how most planes work, and what he doesn't know, I'm sure he Googles or he asks in his academy whenever he's asked in a YouTube video. He gets back to questions. He gets really mean comments, and he makes reaction videos to those mean comments he has received. And so Kelsey deserves all the love possible, and Kelsey, I have to advertise him, and so I'm here to advertise him. Kelsey has a team, of course, that work behind him. He has an editor for this video, I'm sure. And well, I'm going to give you
check.
An example.
Check. Engine. Check. Coffee maker. Check. That's got to be the second biggest slingshot I've ever seen. But it's going to have to do. Attention. This is your captain speaking.
In the event of a water emergency, place the vest over your head, then kiss your goodbye.
New York City, here we go.
Try to go back his
personal god is hunk of junk flies.
Personal god hunk. What?
We are go, sir.
Full disclosure, I've never flown this aircraft, so I'm not familiar with their checklist and systems. But there are some things that they've gotten right and some things that Hollywood has gotten wrong. First, one of the things they've gotten right is they're doing a checklist. Now, it's standard in all airlines that one pilot is reading the checklist while the other pilot is checking to verify that those things are done correctly. It's called a challenge and response type checklist, and that is correct. However, one of the things that caught my eye is that he mentioned struts. Now, struts can be a few different things on the aircraft, but I think what they're referring to is the landing gear here. And there's 5 lights. You have the red and the green mixed together in the same line of these struts. And usually you're not going to have green and red mixed together like that, and it's going to be something that's ready to go. Something that also caught my eye was they're showing flaps 60. Now usually if flaps go past 40 degrees, they start to act more like drag and less like lift. The flaps are something that we use on the aircraft to help the plane fly at a slower speed but maintain lift. We use those flaps for takeoff and for landing, so we don't have 7 and 8 mile long runways to take off and land on. As for the coffee maker being on the checklist, that's 100% accurate. I know a lot of pilots that have to drink coffee or want to drink coffee during the whole flight. I even know of one instance where the pilots refused to go until the coffee actually arrived on the plane. So that actually is very true. You may have noticed that one of the pilots was verifying the controls were free. That's something that we do. You want to know that the controls are free and there's not something locked or jammed or something like that. And you want to do that while you're stopped, not going 100 miles an hour down the runway. So that's actually something that is correct. And finally, you see the flight attendant inflating their vest in part of the safety briefing. That's something you will never see a flight attendant do. They always say, make sure you evacuate the aircraft before you inflate your safety vest. So that's something that Hollywood did not get right. Let's get back to the movie.
Okay, so obviously he's commenting about this, but he also is commenting of what's going on later. But he has his funny moments, and by that I mean I'll skip to here, where oops, so right there, here.
Maurice, it's more fun when you raise your arms.
Oh, sorry, the sky, not the when the plane goes down.
Raise your arms, Maurice.
So just look at his expression for the entire video, and you realize why I watch this guy. Not just because of my joy of airplanes, but because I want to test how serious he is in most of his videos. I'm just waiting for him to die and burst into laughter. But he always tries to retain a serious look on his face.
Crash landing! When it comes to air travel, we know you have no choice whatsoever. But thanks again for choosing Air Penguin.
Raise your arms, Maurice. It's more fun when you raise your arms like this. I can fly.
My goodness, doll, you're shaking like a leaf. Rico, you've had your fun. Pull up. Gear down. Gently now, you just want to kiss the ground. Just a little peck, a smooch like you're kissing your sister. I said kiss it! Now just a little break. Just a touch. A little whisper. I believe that's checkmate.
I will not go further, but you can clearly see that when he watches this scene, he will comment on the entire thing, and that's all you need to know. 740 Gears channel, I highly recommend it. I'm also subscribed. He has his own Instagram, and he has his own crew, and I'm pretty sure editors working behind it, and all about aviation. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen, for this video. My top 6 history channels plus recommendation. 740 gear. Enjoy. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, leave a like down, and if not, don't even subscribe. Just turn the other way. I'm not really that interesting of a channel, I'll be honest. I just like advertising other channels, providing sound files, and making a moon fall, I guess. Wow, I'm a sad channel. I really need to do something more with this channel. I just don't know why yet. What am I gonna do? I even have a game plan. We'll talk about it later.